Well, with the Super Bowl having just happened yesterday, um, not a great game. It was not a great game. It was too one-sided. But be that as it may, a lot of patriotic stuff was going on around that. Well, with the election and all, just a lot of patriotic foofara in the news lately. And for some reason on my feed popped up this very, very old recording. Yeah, I mean, it says it was posted 2 years ago, but this is back from my childhood, maybe even earlier. Doesn't say when it was created, but it does. It does say that Orson Welles, who's giving this monologue, died in '85. But I'm thinking this goes back way, way beyond that, way before that. I'm thinking like in the 50s or 60s, somewhere in there. So let's, when was Orson Welles? He was born in 1915. Oh, he was born the same year as my father, 1915. No, Dad was born in 1919. He was born before my dad. Okay. In any event, Orson Welles, the Battle Hymn of the Republic. Interesting.
I'd like to talk to you tonight about a great lady. And she was just that, a very great lady, and a celebrity, which is something else, of course. A toast of society. On top of that, she was a suffragette, a sort of great-grandmother of woman's lib, and one of the finest singers in this country. Her name was Miss Julia Ward Howe. Here she is in the happy autumn of her brilliant life. Now, Miss Julia was born before photography was invented, and though there were cameras by the time Miss Julia had grown up to be beautiful, and she was, very beautiful, if there is a photo made of her back in her youthful days as a breaker of hearts, I haven't been able to find it. Never mind. After all this time, we still remember her with so much affection, because of some words she wrote for a song. I don't think there's any argument that it's the greatest song ever to come out of America.
I see.
Hers are the greatest lyrics. The music started well ahead of the words. It started in church and then moved out into the battlefield. It began as a hymn and grew to be the most heart-quickening marching song in all history. It's quite a story. Before the Civil War, there was an old man named Brown who tried to start a civil war all on his own. An angry old man who reckoned it wasn't enough just to say that slavery was wrong. Something had to be done about it. Slaves had to be set free.
Yep.
So he and his sons and a few other people picked up their guns and tried to do just that. It didn't work, of course. Nobody was freed. Old Mr. Brown was caught and tried for treason and hanged. He was either a martyred hero or a bloodthirsty villain, depending on your viewpoint. It's an argument that's still going on. You can dispose of me, he said, standing on the scaffold. You can dispose of me very easily. This other matter has not been disposed of. This Negro question, I mean. The end of that is not yet. Well, they buried him. Not so long afterwards, that crazy private battle of his broke out so publicly that it all but broke our nation in two. It very nearly destroyed us. And early on in that terrible Civil War of ours, a few soldiers picked up that half-forgotten hymn tune and improvised some words, and pretty soon an army was marching to it. Maybe what old Brown had done in life was unlawful, but the spirit moving him was freedom. A spirit in our land we like to think can never die. That's the sense of what the soldiers were singing. John Brown's body lies a-moldering in the grave, but his soul goes marching on. Carried the whole Union Army into battle. Well, Miss Howe was the lady who made it the battle hymn of the Republic. The whole Republic. A nation, as Miss Howe's great admirer, Mr. Lincoln, so greatly put it. Dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. Her song was for all of us to sing, and all of us to live by. She'd had a sleepless night. This happened in Washington, the old Willard Hotel, and somehow just before dawn, those words all came to her all at once, as though some other hand had written them and passed them on to her. So Miss Julia Howe got up out of her hotel bed and found, as she said later, an old stub of a pen, and as daybreak lightened over a sleeping city, sat down at the window and got it all written out before the sun had reached the paper. Those words of hers still help to bind and hold us. A song not for half a nation to march to, but for a whole people to stand up and sing together. Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord. He is trampling out the vintage where the grapes of wrath are stored. He hath loosed the fateful lightning of his terrible swift sword. His truth is marching on.
Wow.
In the beauty of the lilies, Christ was born across the sea, with a glory in his bosom that transfigures you and me. As he died to make men holy, let us die to make men free, while God is marching on.
Mr. Orson Welles. Yeah, I think, here again, this is a time when our country is divided. We have crazy stuff going on. We're discovering all of this criminal activity and embezzlement and theft and all this crazy stuff going on. And people are more concerned with arresting and charging the people discovering all of the illegal activity than the ones who actually committed the crimes. It's just our country is fractured, and that's one of the reasons why I decided to include this today, because we need to think about this. Just as we had the North and South divided over slavery, we now have the Democrat and Republicans separated over ethics, morality. I mean, what do you want to call it? Clearly, they're finding all kinds of abuses and money being spent for a whole bunch of things that nobody wanted it spent on. And then people are going and trying to put them in jail for having discovered these things, obviously covering themselves, protecting themselves. Anyway, I don't care how you look at it. It's black and white. It's pretty obvious at this point. I mean, it's not something that's being misled or misrepresented, or the truth is coming out. And this is why Trump is at the highest approval rating that we've had for a president in a very long time. So I thought, with our country being as fractured as it is, now is a good time to listen to Mr. Orson Welles talking about the battle hymn of the Republic and how that song helped unite our nation. And I do want to point out how many times there was references in there to God, to the Lord, his terrible swift sword. That's who he's talking about. So our country, I don't care how you want to look at it, our country was formed under a basic belief in God, and it is in that belief that helped build us and have the strength that we have. And now that we have all these people who are not believers in God and trying to take God out of the schools and out of government, we find ourselves in the situation we're in now. I mean, even our money says right on our money, in God we trust. That's what they're talking about. So we may have religious freedom in this country, and we do. You're allowed to practice any religion you like even an absence of a religion if that's what you so choose. And that's okay. But this country was formed, built, developed, and reliant upon a belief in God, in treating others as you would want to be treated, in the Ten Commandments, following those rules of society and life. So I felt obliged to include Orson Welles' Battle Hymn of the Republic today because it just seemed very fitting, and maybe it'll help cross the divide and unite our country once again, because we certainly need God's help. All right, friends, I'm going to leave it there. There's a link in the description down below if you want to go see the original here by Orson Welles. I recommend you do. Cool song, and we'll go for here.